Hi everyone, it's Dave Ghoul, and today I bring you guys a new video. Finally, after a couple of months, I know I've took a little while to do this, but I actually had this idea by a subscriber, one of my subscribers, which was Ada Asher, which I know wants me to call him Dwayne. So here you go, Dwayne. Um, and we were talking about in the comments section about Light and Kaneki as characters, and if they were part of the same world, if they will get along together, which I thought it was an interesting concept and idea. So I decided to make this video with my friend Simple Weeb, since he is a fan of Death Note, and yeah. Do you want to say something, Simple Weeb? You want to introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, my name is Simple Web, and thank you for having me. Finally, able to do a video with you. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Even in my channel.
Yeah, even in your channel, we've been doing our own stuff. Although I think I can say it already. We're already planning to do a podcast, so
Yeah.
that will come out soon. I think. We still need to record it. But beforehand, I wanted to make this video with you. A less scripted video. It's more the two of us talking, just like in the podcast, talking about a subject matter, a specific subject matter. And again, I thought this was a perfect theme for us to talk about, since we both seen this series, and and we both know more or less our stuff, you know. Although you're much more knowledgeable and the whole story is more fresh in your mind than it is to me. I have to be honest here. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to talk with you, because the story is much more fresh in your mind, and also I can give my knowledge of the Tokyo Ghoul manga specifically as well, since
I only read the Tokyo manga.
you've
I
only
haven't
seen
read
the anime, yeah.
yet, so I've seen the
Um,
animes. Yeah.
and the anime, it's a little bit. I think the manga is much more knowledge for this argument specifically. I think than the anime is. So, yeah, we're gonna go with the manga in this case. And the Death Note manga is more or less the same as the anime, so we're not too far off in that regard.
Yes. Yeah. The manga is basically the same thing. There's a little bit of little touch, but that's about it.
Yeah. You got the touch, you got the power. All right then. So let's delve deep into it, shall we? And talk a little bit about what if Light was in the same world as Kaneki. And I mentioned specifically the world of Tokyo Ghoul because, well, Kaneki is a ghoul, so I think it will be weirder if Kaneki was in the world of Light and not the Light being in the world of Kaneki. So I think we're gonna go with that one. Um,
Absolutely.
and one of the questions that Dwayne asked was if they both of them will get along. Um, I found the question interesting because I I ended up disagreeing a little bit with Dwayne when it came to them getting along or not. I do think they wouldn't get along. Maybe at first, because Kaneki has some innocence to him.
Yeah.
Um, although it depends on the Kaneki we're talking about. So if we're talking,
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say.
the white hair Kaneki does have still a little bit of that innocence from his, from before his transformation. But well, uh, I still think the Kaneki that we see at the beginning of the story is much more naive. I mean, Tsukuyama, which is, by the way, shares the same voice actor as Light. Um,
Yeah.
he is able to trick Kaneki very easily, so I think it wouldn't be a problem for Light as well. But after the transformation, I do see Kaneki being a little bit more worried about Light. Maybe figure out things. But again, Light is such a genius at hiding his identity that I don't know if Kaneki will even, find out about Light. But for argument's sake, let's imagine that indeed he discovers who Light is. I don't believe that they will get along. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It depends on the Kaneki, especially because we have to see from two sides. What would Kaneki think about? What would Light think about Kaneki? And what are we talking about? Would Light think that just the fact of being a ghoul would mean that he's a bad guy? Because if so, Light would never even talk with Kaneki, and he will try to kill Kaneki as fast as possible because he's a bad guy. But if Light thinks that Kaneki is just a victim of an unfortunate disaster, I'm talking about being turned into a ghoul, then what Light would probably do is, like you said, use Kaneki to achieve his goal of erasing all evil from the planet Earth.
Yeah.
And obviously, the fact that he wants to become a god will not be easy, because if he has someone literally someone, because in the Death Note series he had the Death Note. The Death Note doesn't have any conscience. The Death Note, you just write it and it's done. But ordering Kaneki to do something in the future, when Light wants to become the god of the new world, Kaneki would probably go against it, even if it's his normal form, his innocent form,
Yeah.
Because Kaneki, in the beginning, is indeed a good guy. He doesn't even want to eat humans or kill humans because he feels bad about it, because he was a human. Further in the story, he doesn't care. But in the beginning, he is really worried about... Kaneki in the beginning is a genuinely good guy. He cares about others, he cares about ghouls, and he cares about humans, because he has become both. And I think that's also a lot of what Tokyo Ghoul goes around. But in this question, it's really hard to answer, because it depends on a lot of things. And I remember Ada also questioned in my channel what would happen if Light had the powers of a ghoul, if Light
Became a ghoul.
also made things difficult, because if he became a ghoul, it doesn't matter anything, because Light is not the kind of person that likes to go out and kill people, in my opinion. That's what I see from reading and watching the anime.
Mm-hmm.
Light is not the kind of person that likes to get his hands dirty. The only times you actually went out to do something was in the FBI. In the FBI case, he went out and killed the FBI agent. Killed not directly, with the Death Note, obviously. And it's because he had a very well thought plan. Because if he doesn't have a very well thought plan, I don't think he would like to go out in any case. So it's really hard to answer that question.
Yeah.
But it's really hard. Both questions are hard. What would happen if Kaneki and Light lived in the same universe? Because, like you said, there's different Kanekis. There's not just one Kaneki. You have Kaneki, you have white-haired Kaneki, you have mixed-hair Kaneki, the Sasaki, and then you have the full black-haired Kaneki after he became a white-hair, after all of those events, and then white-haired Kaneki, right? He gets hyped again.
Well, and the same thing with Light, right? Because Light starts
as a really good guy.
As a good guy.
He is a good guy.
At least his intentions are good. At least his intentions were good. But as he goes along in the story, he becomes much more villainous. He doesn't.
In the end, he's a villain.
he is a villain. I mean, the lines start to blur about, killing innocents and just killing criminals, and so the same thing as Kaneki in a way. So I guess, which angle do you want to approach this? You want you want to use Kaneki's final person, not final personality, but is the way that he ends the Re story, or and the same thing with Light, the way that Light ends the story, or at least after L's death, or do you want to go with the way they were in at the beginning?
Phew, that's hard to say because those would be completely different stories. I think we can start with from the beginning.
Yeah.
Both in the beginning, and then we'll explore more about the end of each one in the end of the story.
Because I do think, well, I think we can, in the case of Kaneki, we can use White Hair Kaneki in a sense, since he does still have certain pieces of his personality that are the same as when he starts the story. And Light, we can use Light.
White Hair Kaneki is completely different from the beginning Kaneki, because White Hair Kaneki, he has already given up to despair. He has already given up to. He has already suffered enough, so he knows he doesn't care about hurting other people. Kinda. He still cares, but not as much as in the beginning. He would eat ghouls, and he just doesn't. He dislikes ghouls. He eats ghouls. In the beginning, the thing is, he doesn't dislike ghouls. He doesn't eat humans or ghouls. He doesn't eat anything, and he starts starving too.
Yeah.
But I think those two personalities are still very different to be compared. I'll say, put it in the same perspective, because I see it go different ways. If, like I said, if the Light would meet the beginning Kaneki, the reaction would be completely different. If from Light meeting the White Hair Kaneki, in my opinion.
Yeah, because if we go with the first version of Kaneki, I think it's fair to say, yes, Kaneki would be basically Light's servant, because Light
will manipulate him.
That's what he does, right? He manipulates people first. When we talk about will they be friends, that's not really true. I mean, it will be a one-sided thing, right? It wouldn't be friendship.
Yeah.
It will be
Maybe.
It will be a battle of interests, really.
Kaneki will be like, oh, Light is cool. He always helps me out with stuff in school, or he always helps me out dealing with his ghoul problems. But in the end, Kaneki, Light will be like, yeah, Kaneki is cool because I can use it, because he's dumb, and I can use it. I can kill all the villains with this. Because in the beginning, I'm pretty sure Light could convince Kaneki to only eat villains. And it would even be a more effective weapon than the Death Note, because it doesn't leave any trace. The villain just stays. He gets eaten, he disappears. So, yeah, in the beginning, Kaneki would easily be used by Light. I think we can both agree in that.
Yeah.
And eventually, when Light is coming close to his end goal, becoming the god of the new world, and Kaneki would turn against him and eat Light. But even so, I highly doubt it. He would probably, knowing Light, he would probably have a safe plan. How do you say it? A plan to countermeasure to fight. You would probably get a quink or something like that to be able to beat Kaneki when the time comes.
Yeah, and the other thing is,
because that's how Light is.
And the other thing is, would Light have a Death Note? Right? Will he have a Death Note? Will he be a ghoul? That's the... Because, well, if he was a ghoul, I don't think he would use too much his powers. It will be more of
He doesn't
the,
like to expose himself.
and he uses a
Light
lot of,
doesn't
he uses much more his brain and than his
than his
muscles,
actual
really.
body.
Exactly. Um,
He only uses his body to do the match with L.
yeah.
That's the only time he uses his body.
And physically, he is, you know, he could use, you know, he could be a powerful ghoul, but ultimately, I think he's a lot like Eto, right? If he needs to use his physical strength, he will, but he rather manipulate people first than.
Yeah.
And with Kaneki, well, at the end of the story, uh, we only need to we can look at Furuta, right, and his whole plan. He made Kaneki transform himself into the dragon and eat all of the humans and ghouls alike. And we could say, well, Light's plan would be of becoming the god of the world is more or less similar. You know, the only difference is he wants to wipe out all crime. But again, like Furuta, he's not afraid to step on the innocents, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In order to accomplish his goal.
Especially
yeah, go ahead.
no, like you were saying, if you're looking both characters in the end, Light would not even care about stepping on innocents to get to his goal. He wants to wipe crime. In the story of Death Note, we see once he gets closer to his goal, he starts understanding that he will have to step and go further, break his boundaries to get to the goal, and he really does doing that.
Yeah.
And it will happen the same way if he had Kaneki under his command.
Yeah, I can see.
Absolutely.
I could see Kaneki occupying the role of what's his name? The police, one of the investigators that was working with Light, the one who was the most naive out of the entire group.
Oh, Matsuda.
Yes, Matsuda. I think
one.
they are a little bit similar in the regard that they will trust Light until they discover his plan, and no matter what, exactly. That's why I think
the funny fact that Matsuda is the one that will only not believe Kaneki once he actually gets proof of that. But he was the one that shot Light. So.
Yeah. I think Kaneki, if Kaneki was in the same position, he wouldn't hesitate, really.
He would also be the first to react. Like, once he discovers that, well, Light is actually not a good person, he would also be the one to kill it immediately. Yeah. Because that's the kind of person that Kaneki is. He is a good person.
Yeah, it's interesting because there are some parallels with some of the characters of both of the stories. I mean, Tsukuyama, I could see Light being like Tsukuyama in the sense of Kaneki finds out about, what transpired in that first arc with Tsukuyama, Kaneki finding out who Tsukuyama is and going against him. I could see a similar situation with Light as well, regarding Light.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do think, for this argument, White-Hair Kaneki, if we are talking about White-Hair Kaneki, I can't even speak today. I think the situation will be a little bit different because one of the things that I talked about with Dwayne here was if they were very similar when it comes to morality, right? They are in a sense, but I think White-Hair Kaneki, one of the things that he talked about in the manga was that one of the arguments that I pointed out initially was I don't know if Kaneki will side with Light after he discovered his plans, since he doesn't really kill innocents in the story, and Dwayne refuted that argument by talking about that he has killed innocents before, and his morality, you know, both of them have done good and bad things, right? And I agree with that. Although I think the people that Kaneki has killed that are innocent, that are not, you know, evil ghouls or evil humans,
Yeah.
he didn't kill on willingly, you know. At
Yeah.
least of what I remember
He
from the
was out
manga.
of control.
Because with White-Hair Kaneki, he killed, you know, I remember one of the first things that he does after he makes, you know, he creates this group with Tsukuyama and Banjo and Inami, not Inami, because Inami, he doesn't involve her.
Yeah.
And he goes after
I
the
remember reading that in the manga,
yeah,
actually.
he goes to the
Read
same
the first part. I didn't read the read.
yeah, the first part. It doesn't it's a little bit different, but with the first part,
Yeah.
it goes to um, that same place where Tsukiyama tricked him the first time, with all the ghouls that wanted to eat him, and he kills them all. You know, he wipes them, all of them. But again, they weren't necessarily innocent. You know, Kaneki went on a revenge path, but only for the people who wronged him, you know, and who could pose a threat to the people he wants to protect, you know, like Aogiri and all that.
Yeah.
That's why I rather go with the manga than the anime, because in the anime he joins Aogiri, and it's a little bit different. In the manga, he's much more vicious, right?
Yeah.
And
in the
yeah,
manga
yeah,
makes sense why he did that. In the anime, you're just like, why are you joining the organization that tortured you for days? Like,
yeah.
what the hell? But in the manga, I'm happy I read the first part of the manga. I'm still yet to read the read, but in the manga you can understand that it makes sense. It makes sense.
It makes sense for his
Kanek's
character.
logic makes sense. He's not that dumb.
I guess what he was pointing out regarding that argument was, in when he becomes Black Reaper, he does kill ghouls, at least ghouls, because he's working for the investigators. And later on, and we see this in the anime when he tries to save Inami, get Inami out of the prison of Kochila.
Yeah.
He does kill some investigators, I think. At least it seems like it. And okay, if we're talking about Black Reaper, I can understand. He does kill some innocents in order to play that role, you know, of both an investigator and then a ghoul.
Reaper is more like Light.
Yes.
I'll say Black Reaper is more like Light in the sense that he doesn't mind stepping on some boundaries to get to his goal. Black Reaper is more like that, and Light is definitely like that in the end of the story.
But even then, I guess the biggest difference between Light and Kaneki was, if we're talking about Black Reaper, Kaneki, yes, he was the Black Reaper, but there was still that Kaneki who didn't want to harm anybody, you know, who ultimately wanted to...
And he only did that to protect his friends.
Yes.
When in the example of Light, he killed a lot of people because he wanted to become a god. It wasn't even more because of his great plan to raise crime.
Yep.
In the end, he just wanted to be a god.
I mean, he was basically a sociopath, right? He was basically a sociopath.
He was becoming...
He didn't care about his father. I think there's some debate there if he cared or not when his father died. I don't think so, personally. At least the way it was portrayed in the anime.
In the anime and in the manga, I think too. I haven't read in a while. Like, not so. I haven't. It's not that fresh in my mind. It's still fresh, but not that fresh.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think like even in his thoughts, he thinks, well, this is just an act. He kind of thinks that way. Like,
yeah.
He's just acting Because obviously, if he says, "Ha, kill yourself," obviously the, the members of the police would think, "What the hell are you saying? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
are you kidding?"
Even
yeah,
with
like
even his
yeah,
relation with, yeah, 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 yeah.
he had the goal to be raising crime anymore. He wanted to become the god of the new world.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, his main goal was to erase crime, but with time, he became crime itself. He became the criminal.
Yeah.
So he didn't want to erase him, or he wanted to be the god and be like the supreme criminal, the only criminal in the world, kind of.
Yeah.
And in Kaneki, is where in the case of Kaneki, it's Kaneki did kill some innocents because he wanted to protect his friends and family, quotation family. Obviously, in the future, Toka becomes his family, but in the beginning, in that
Yeah,
time,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Toka wasn't his family.
You know, even
you can clearly see that he was doing that for the cafe,
the Anteku, yeah.
from the cafe, and all his friends along the way.
You know, and even
and the people from the police.
Even when he did it, though, he regretted. You know, it wasn't something that was doing with
Yeah,
no remorse. You know, I think one of the reasons why he wanted to, because he was very suicidal, right? So he killed those investigators and he killed those ghouls, but ultimately he knew that he was gonna die. You know, he knew that he wanted Arima to kill him. So in a way, you could say that, part of the reason why he did it wasn't just to save his friends, but it was to pay for his sins, And ultimately, I think that's the biggest difference between Light and Kaneki, is that Kaneki found salvation, Light went for damnation, basically. And again, he was a sociopath,
Kaneki feels remorse when he kills. Kaneki feels remorse when he kills someone and feels bad about himself.
Light doesn't really feel remorse. Yeah, he doesn't. From everyone who helps him and he knows, even L, there are some fans of Death Note who we're fans of Death Note as well, but there's some there's some people who think that he did some way cared about L because he was sort of a rival, right? I think, even with L, I don't think L really cared about Light. I think it was more this sort of rivalry, right? It made him feel alive in a sense.
Imagine being a super genius and nothing is challenged for you, and then out of nowhere comes someone that can actually predict your moves and is as intelligent as you. Obviously, you get motivated, but I don't think they didn't care about each other. They were opponents in a match, but obviously they were friends. Not all. Light wanted to kill him, and L wanted to catch and event, because L knew that Light was Kira. He didn't just have the evidence to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the whole thing.
Yeah, so I think, because in a way, in a sense, Light, even when he started out with, more pure intentions, well, I don't know if they're really pure. I mean, you're still killing people, but
he wanted to become the god of
I think
the new world, anyways.
When
that's
he wanted,
the only thing I don't like that about the character.
I think he became much more.
I understand it's interesting, but
he became much more obsessed about it later on the road. But even before that, he didn't. I think even himself, he said that he didn't really care about this world anymore. These people. I think even beforehand, he didn't really add any affection for anyone, really, for any person. So he always saw people as dispendable. And Kaneki, even though he is flawed and he can be selfish as well, he, he still try and do good, by other people. He didn't, he cared about them in some sense. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you.
So to wrap this whole thing up a little bit, who do you think wins, Light or Kaneki? In both senses, physically, mentally, ultimately, who do you think is the strongest opponent?
Well, mentally, I have to go with Light because I always stand by Light when it comes to mental fights. Light is complete genius, and that's my opinion always. I still think he wins against L too, and he would win against Nier and Mello if he wasn't dumb as fuck in the end. If he would plan things better, if he wasn't completely, he thought he already won, so that's why he lost.
Yeah.
Because he thought he already won, he lost. Yeah, and because he had to lose. Let's be honest. No one wants to see the bad guy in quotation marks win, even if it's the protagonist. But physically, well, Kaneki is a ghoul, so I think that answers the question, right? But Kaneki doesn't go that mentally. He's not that dumb. In the beginning, he can be very innocent and naive, but further in the story, especially in the end, he starts to see the world as it is, and understands that the world is not the perfect place he maybe thought it was.
And also,
that's my opinion.
Yes, something that Light doesn't. Light operates very much alone, and Kaneki operated alone, but ultimately he used the help of others to.
Yeah, he realized that together he could do better, I think.
But
then he realized that maybe together we would hurt people, and then he realized again. That's the story.
But I think ultimately Light will win, because I don't think Nier was the only one who was able to get close with help, yes, but he was able to get close to Light and use a lot of his own intelligence. I don't know if any character from Tokyo Ghoul could really come close to Light's own personal. But again, it was his arrogance who defeated him. But I still think Light will probably win at the end of the day, if we're only talking about Kaneki and Light.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah,
like you said, physically Kaneki is a ghoul, but mentally, the mental part is very important.
Yeah.
Because Light plays everything as a chess game, or more. When you're playing a chess game in 3 dimensions, he's playing the chess game in 5 dimensions. So he's just 4 dimensions above you. That's it. Like, Light is Light. Obviously, I'm joking with this 4 dimension and all that, but it's kind of true. Light is just in a different level.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just 2 steps ahead from everyone.
Even with the Death Note or not, I still think, Light is such an intelligent character that, even more so in the beginning of the Death Note story. So if we're going with that version of the character, then I think it's a clear win. But if we go with a more arrogant one, maybe Kaneki has a chance. But yeah, again, that's all. I guess ultimately it's very subjective, right? It will depend on the writer who's working on it.
It's all speculation. We're just speculating here.
Yeah.
Because I think that just the fact that Kaneki gets isekai to Tokyo Ghoul's universe, or just get the get Ghoul's power, could just make a completely different anime from Tokyo Ghoul or Death Note. You can create a whole anime based on that.
I mean, the mythology is different, right? Light was after normal, regular criminals. but if he was in the same world as Kaneki, maybe we'll go after ghouls, or maybe
Yes,
you know, you don't know
probably.
exactly which side he will fall under, and if he will be a ghoul himself, right? If he will be a ghoul, he will go after humans. So, what exactly? That's why I think he, as a character, maybe he falls a little bit more. You know, maybe he's more similar to Furuta in the sense that he doesn't really take sides. You know, he doesn't
Yeah.
care if it's a human or a ghoul. But again, it's very the world's when it comes to the morality in these stories, they're very similar. But when it comes to the world building itself, obviously it's completely different.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you,
Yeah.
honestly.
So yeah, I think we talked about everything we could in this. If some of you guys disagree or maybe agree, or if you have a completely different angle to the whole conversation, if you want, please comment below. Tell us what you think about it. And yeah, this was a really fun video to make. Longer
Yeah,
than
I
expected,
really
but
enjoyed it.
a little bit longer. But yeah, it was cool nonetheless.
Yeah, definitely. And I will look the comments for anyone that disagrees with me. Just tell me why, and I'll try to talk with you. It'll be nice.
You know.
And thank you a lot for having me here again. And well, thank you.
Of course. Please go check Simple Weep's channel out. It really helps a lot, his channel. He does good content. He's now working on a series of, One Piece summaries. So if you're interested in One Piece, maybe go check that out. He does other content as well, so...
By the way, I told that I was making a video about an anime with a J. Yes, my video about JoJo's the script is finally done.
Yay!
Man, it was hard as hell to do that, but the script is finally done, and we'll be recording it and editing. I'm still thinking, because it's a completely different video from what I do. I'm still thinking how I'm gonna do it, but well, you'll eventually see it in my channel. So if you like JoJo's, go check it out. It's already up. If not, you can always find One Piece summaries.
Yeah. So JoJo fans, you have something to look forward. Ho ho ho, Jotaro. Alright then. So, yeah, we've reached the end of the video. Thank you all for watching. And, well, I'll see you in the next one. The next video will be an interesting one. So, look forward for that. And we will eventually make a podcast as well, again. Another episode of the podcast. So, we'll see how that goes. So, yeah, thank you all for watching. Please have a rest of a nice day. Stay safe. Drink plenty of water in this very hot summer. And yeah, thank you all for watching, and sayonara. Oh no, not sayonara anymore. I forgot about it. Ja, matane.